What is a community builder and how to become one, and how to know if you're doing a good job or if you can do something to help the community? Well, let's find out. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZoukNerds. In today's episode, we are going to be focusing on the aspects of community building and what it takes to become a great community leader. And if you're already one, how can you create ideas, process, and methods to make sure that your community is growing, as well as your team is happy in their positions and on everything that it takes to run one? So, let's go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. My name is Alisson Sanji, and I'm here today with our beautiful co-host, Gui Prada. Hello, Gui.
Hello, my friends. Excited for one more episode? Let's do it.
Today, we are going to be having a slightly different discussion compared to the previous ones that we've just had. Today, we're actually going to be focusing on the community, the leadership, the teachers, and the people that actually make the community alive on a daily basis. The topic that we want to discuss today is expectations. So basically, as we were catching up this weekend, we were talking about previous experiences that we've had with our own communities that we work with and the communities that we travel, plus the discussions that we've had with local community members, community leaders, and also students. And we were talking about what are the expectations that we should have or that people actually have, whether they should or not, when looking at their teachers. So let's pose two scenarios here. A teacher that comes and teaches their class, and that's it. Okay, so this teacher number one is a teacher that is a great teacher, a great member of the community, but they just come, teach their classes, go home, that's it. They probably have a lot of other things in their life to focus on and to prioritize. And the other one is a teacher that not only teaches the class, but they are very active in the community, promoting, connecting, talking to everybody, creating some more opportunities for people to engage and to network, going to socials, talking to other dance styles to create opportunities for cross-training, something like that. I hope you understand where we're going with this. So in our experience, we've made a lot of mistakes. So this is why we really want to bring this topic here so we can help, hopefully, with the information that we can share, some other fellow community members, community leaders, teachers, as well as the community as a whole to understand what goes behind the scenes and what is really important or necessary or even fair to expect from teachers or community leaders. So, Guy, why don't you share what really sparked this conversation in your head, which led us to talk about this for hours over the weekend?
Indeed. I think before I share this story, just complementing what you're saying, Alison, I realized over the years that a lot of what we do or what we say in regards to community building and in regards to the people that participate in this role of teaching or building a community, there is a lot of implied, unspoken expectations that can create sometimes a lot of frustration, especially from the leadership of a community. So one thing that I have been trying more to do is to bring more clarity up front. And literally, sometimes having on paper, have you written down what are these expectations? What is it that we would like? What is it that we would like? What is it that we are asking? And sometimes even more important, what is it that we are not asking? Because sometimes that's a little bit of an issue. And 2 weeks ago, when I was traveling to a local community here in the US, I was having a conversation in the car with the organizer, which also is the owner of a dance school that teaches Brazilian Zouk. And in that conversation, I started to have this almost like epiphany moments, realizing that a dance teacher, a dance instructor can be just that. They can come, teach the class, and go home, and that's completely fine. And we can also have the dance teacher that has aspects of community builder, like Alison was saying. They're on top of teaching the class, they do all these other things complementary to the classes, maybe to bring people together, to cross-train, to cross-promote, all of these things. And with that came the realization that I myself was having the impression and unknowingly having the expectations that all of the teachers should also have aspects of community builders. And I realized that a lot of my frustrations at times was coming from this expectation. And I haven't realized that before. I just realized feeling frustrated from time to time when a dance instructor would not do this thing that I understand is a good thing for the community. And literally, like we were saying before, when the instructor would come, teach the class, and go home, do other things. And now that I had this understanding for myself, I feel actually a lot more calm, a lot more chill about the idea of having a dance teacher that doesn't have elements of community building, and that is completely fine. The thing is bringing clarity to that aspect for myself, for the organization and for the school, for the studio, and for the person that is teaching as well. What is expected of them? And asking them upfront, is there anything that you'd like to do that you think you would contribute to the growth of the community on top of you coming to class and teach? Because in certain situations we had here in DC, in conversations with our instructors and assistants, having this very open conversation and learning that they only have the bandwidth to come to class and teach for whatever other reasons that are happening in their lives. And they know that, I know that, the school knows that, and everything is fine. Yeah, so I think that's one thing that maybe community leaders, studio owners around the world might resonate with, might have some experience with it, because I have talked to studio owners and community leaders from all over the world, and there is very often a frustration with the local teachers, with their own teachers, about how much they are participating in the broader task of community building. Addison, I believe you might have also a shit ton of experience with that in other places of the world, né?
So many. And I'm going to share my experience and my mistakes for sure. When I started teaching, was all by accident, as you guys may have heard in previous episodes. When I moved to Australia, I was there to learn English, but I connected with community members there, and then my teaching career started. When I started building my team and having other people also assisting or becoming trainees and becoming teachers, I came from this mindset of how the Brazilian dance school worked back then. And we're talking about 20 years. This may not be relatable to how dance schools work in Brazil today. But the way things worked back then was that every member had a hand and a responsibility on every aspect of the school. So if you're giving a role to be a trainee or to be an assistant or to be a teacher, you're expected to teach, to DJ, to set up the party, to practice with the students, to contact students, to do admin work, to do anything and everything. And that's kind of like how I was expecting my team to behave. Needless to say, that did not work. If you look at it, back in Brazil, why did it work? It worked because a lot of these community members that were part of the school and doing the trainee work, they were really investing everything to perhaps become a career and perhaps become something as equally important as their main focus in life. Maybe they already had a career, but they were like, yeah, that career is stable enough. I want this to be my next big goal in life. But I was met with a different perspective going to Australia and then seeing that same thing repeating all over the world, which was that people just wanted to come and enjoy and have a good time and then bye. They weren't joining the team or joining the school team. And I'm talking about like the core team, not the student team. They weren't joining to become responsible for the community, because people came and joined the community and joined the school team, like the core team, the organizers, the instructors, the trainees, to have fun and to develop something else in their life that was missing. But they weren't really willing or wanting to take responsibility as if the main teacher. And that's something that took me a while to understand. And over the course of multiple mistakes, I did lose some community members that were helping me because they felt like they were overwhelmed and things were too much for them when they just wanted dance to be dance. And that's where we're going here. We want to understand and explain how now we see this differently. The first moment that I changed my perspective was when I realized that it was better and it was more efficient for me and for them if I just split everybody into what they like to do best and what they want to do best. For example, if you wanted to be an assistant or a teacher in my team, I would expect you to also do some admin. I would expect you to do some promotion. I expected you to help organize the social, set up the social, run the social, pick up the social, do other promoting opportunities, do other planning and tasks that are there on a daily basis. So when I changed, I just basically put each person in what they love to do. Some people are great at coming to teach, and that's it. They don't really have the time or don't want to prioritize all of the other aspects. Others were really, really good at helping organize the parties and help select music, because back then we didn't really have DJs, and helped organize catering, decoration. And then other people, they were really good at being a multi-style dancer, where they were going to Zouk and then salsa to bachata, and they were connecting the Zouk community that was really small in the very beginnings with others. So I had multiple conversations with each member, and I asked them, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you enjoy doing? And that gives you that energy to want to build more and to do more. And I split them into, let's call it, departments. The departments of social dancing, the departments of networking, the departments of teaching, the departments of admin. And since then, I think things became a lot better. And the reason, once again, we want to talk about this, it's because we all, starting a community, we all do everything. So then when somebody wants to join and say, hey, I would love to become an assistant and a teacher. And I'm like, okay, so here are all the things that you need to learn and do to have what I have or to be by my side. Instead of like offloading and giving people what they really love to do. I understand that for somebody who works in big corporation organizations or have MBAs, you must be thinking, come on, Alison, this is 101. This is beginner stuff. But I need to remind you, the dance community is not like any other industry. It does not run like it. It does not shape like it. So this is why it's really hard to run a dance community as a full business corporation and still feel like a family that is all tied together and everybody has equal expectations, responsibilities, and enjoyment. It's like, do you see how it's really hard to manage to have this super structure, but to not feel like we have that super structure. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's because it's very personal too. In a company, you maybe rarely see who is the CEO. You don't know who the CFO is. I mean, you know the names, but you rarely see these people. And in a dance business, you know who the owner is. You dance with that person. You talk with that person directly. And on top of that is art. So we are dealing with an art form. That's something that is very easy to forget. We are dealing with art. And in that sense, the level of emotional engagement or entanglement with the craft is very different. So even though we try to bring more objectiveness into it, we still need to be a lot more mindful about the people because we know who they are, we talk to them, and we dance with them. So that's something that makes, like you're saying, this industry super unique. Very, very, very unique. And at times, like you were saying, at the MBA, people like, come on, guys, this is simple business stuff. It could be, it can be, and it is not at the same time, specifically for that reason. We cannot deal with it as if we are dealing with a product, with a retail product. We are dealing with a service, and we cannot deal with the people as sometimes we do in the corporate world as resources. Yeah. So there is this aspect of personal involvement. There is this very direct relationship that we have with each other. And on top of that, it's a lot of a work of love. It's a work of love that we do. And at times, there is the work of passion and the work of love. I think the work of passion is that excitement that we feel maybe when we find the dance for the first time, and we feel really excited about teaching to the world and opening our own school. And then out of this passion, out of this fire, we open it and then we start. And then we hope that everybody is going to be in the same frequency that you are. Over time, the passion goes away, like in any relationship. The passion goes away, and we have to build the trust, and we have to build the loving relationship with the dance and with the school. And that is where we, over time, and then I'm saying for myself, and I think for you too, Nelson, we start to understand that not everybody is in the same level of engagement that we are. And we want them to be at times. We desperately want them to be in the same level of engagement that we are. And it's because for us, it's different. It's our full time. It's how we make our living. For maybe 95% of the other people who are active participants in this dance world and building, especially the Brazilian Zouk world that I know, don't do this full time. They have their jobs, they have their families, they have all these other things in their life, and they do the dance as a work of love, as something on the side. How many times we had in our communities that we visit here in our community, people that join out with all that fire. 3 years later, you see them once a week. You see them twice a week. You sometimes only see them in one social. They're still there. They're still coming. But now the dance got into a new phase of their lives, and learning to accept it as someone who saw the first initial fire, it was difficult. I'm not going to say it was easy at all. It was very difficult because we wanted so badly that the fire would never get smaller. We don't want it to extinguish the fire, ever. And we understand if it does. But we didn't want it to get smaller. And at times in us not wanting to get it smaller would sometimes push people too hard to stay in the fire. Don't leave us, don't go anywhere, stay with us, stay coming, So that's something that also we learned over the years. I learned over the years so much, and also learned to accept so much that things will change, that things change all the time. I even tattooed in my skin the word for impermanência, which means things keep changing, and accept that change. Even for us that do this full time, our level of engagement changes in the different things we are involved in, Alisson, because we are involved in local teaching, we're involved in national teaching, international teaching. We are also involved in training teachers. We're also involved, in your case, Alisson, organizing festivals, organizing big events. And at times our focus shifts from now I'm going to give my all to the local teaching, and the other thing is going to live on this side. Now I'm going to give my all to the events. And then at times I'm going to give my all to my personal life. And then the teaching locally, the festivals, the things go on the second plane, and then your role changes. And that's fine. Yeah, I think that's the main thing for us, is to understand the changes, accept the changes, talk about the changes, and be fine with the changes, no?
That's the hard thing, because it's easy to think, well, if you want to do less teaching, you just do less teaching. If you want to do less community building, you do less community building. But like we mentioned before, this is a very personal business and personal industry. And people feel like they don't want to disappoint their leader. So they keep saying yes when they should say no. That's the biggest thing that I encounter as an organizer of multiple aspects of the community. When people keep saying, oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, let's do it. And then they're not showing up. And I'm like, oh my God. Instead of just simply saying, hey, I cannot do it. I don't have the time or the priority. I don't have the passion anymore. Because it's so personal. Because there's that connection between you and the CEO or the owner or whoever that is. If that person was just business, you would have no question. You would just say no. But because that person is your friend, that person is your teacher, that person is somebody who has helped you through difficult times, you feel like saying yes even though you cannot meet the expectations. That's a big thing. And a big thing that I have been doing my best to improve on, trying to read in between the lines and trying to bring that conversation up with the person and make them feel comfortable enough to go well, I think I better be honest with myself. This is not for me anymore. I feel like I can do that better to open up that conversation. So that's something I'm working on. But the other thing that I also want to bring up to attention, and I feel like I share this a lot with community leaders, is the fact that we have a very cyclical rotation in the dance community. I would say over the last 10, 20 years, it's been a 3 years rotation. But as the information age takes over, it could be even shorter. What I'm talking about is that I have seen that every 3 years, everything changes. Every 3 years within your own school and the world, but just within your own school, the super hungry, dedicated students will change. The super passionate instructors, teachers will change. The challenges will change. The opportunities will change. So what we need to do is to always be open to recognize new opportunities and new people that are coming up, instead of just being comfortable. Okay, I have a team, I have a school, I have a process, I have a marketing, I have a system that works. Everything changes so fast. So understanding that while I have a team now, I should already be thinking about who will be my team within 3 years. Recognizing community members that may be doing a beginner's course at this point, or maybe they're passionate students, and just watch and maybe listen to them and have a conversation with them and see how can they already get a little start with maybe some isolated projects, which is something that I highly recommend. Highly, highly, highly. From a lot of experience organizing events like Brazuki, International Zouk Flash Mob for 12 years, and a bunch of other things. Before you bring somebody into a team, give them something that is small and isolated, just so you know, and you test out how you guys communicate, how you guys progress through things, and do they really have the time, the dedication, and the passion that they say they do? What we often find a lot in the community is that people feel so moved and so touched and so excited that they overpromise. And I'm taking no negativity from it. It's just a statement that I have learned. That people, they will overpromise or they will overcommit, not really understanding how busy they are or how big that project or that task is and how long that is. So understanding that, understanding the cycle, understanding how to isolate people into projects that may or may not affect the future, those are some key points that I can give to you. Simple example, you have a social and you think, okay, maybe let's do some decorations. This person is really good with that. They've been offering me, hey, why don't we do a theme party? Why don't we do a costume party? Why don't we do something like this? And we're like, okay, let's do it. Can you help me organize that? Decoration, theme, maybe some music, and see how that goes. Give people the opportunity, because over time, within 3 years, the people that are in your team now, they may not have the passion or may not be able to give priority, or as it happens, they may move to another city or another state for family or work reasons. Who knows? Yeah, so I think this is something that is really useful. And for those of you who are in the community, whether you are in a leadership role or in a student role that wants to do more for the community, you can offer that to a community leader as a side project to see if you actually can provide the time and the priority before you say, hey, I want to be part of your school team and I want to be part of your core team. We get that a lot here at District Zouk. Almost weekly, monthly. Hey, can I join the core team? Bro, you have no idea. Are you ready for marriage?
Yep. Yeah. You're
going to have kids. You're going to have grandparents. You're going to have in-laws. You're going to have a lot of things that you don't expect when you join a core team.
Yep, exactly. I think that clarity that is important to acquire. That is one of the things that are becoming more and more important to me. And I was hearing you saying, Alison, and the thing that kept coming back to me is clarity of communication. Clarity of communication. One of the things that is really present in this world of ours, in this dance world of ours that I noticed, and that's something that I think we already pinned before, is the fact that most things are based on assumptions. We assume or we expect something from someone, or we assume that someone will understand our circumstances because we talked about it in passing and stuff like that. And I could see so many times people making decisions based on an assumption they made, based on something that they heard. And I've saw people getting frustrated because someone should know about this thing and should know about this other thing. And that's the part that I realized, the more we can bring light into these shoulds and assumptions, the better the relationship can be between teacher, organizer, student. One of the things that is important now is that we try to bring as much clarity in the communication of the change of circumstance. I'm gonna move. I lost my job. Now this is my full time. Or I'm gonna find a job, so this is not my full time. The changes of circumstances and how they can impact your work with the dance, whatever work you do with the dance, I think is so valuable if we can bring that clarity up front to whoever is in the leadership. So then we can make these decisions based on knowledge, based on knowing firsthand, knowing from the source, because there's a lot of doubt involved at times. And like we said in the beginning, right? The teacher comes and teaches and goes home versus the teacher who comes, teaches, but also stays in the sense of what else can I do here to build a community? It's something that only started to matter to me because I am in this role that I have right now, teaching locally and assisting, helping with the school, and because of being in touch with smaller communities around the world that want to bring more people in. So their community building efforts is more obvious in the sense that they are out there all the time. It's in their conversations the whole time. Like Alison was saying, that when we came to Australia, we had the Brazil model in mind. And the Brazil model, it was completely different 20 years ago because the schools were already big enough. So the teacher could come, go, and go home. It was fine because at least in the studio in Rio, there was like 800, 900 people. It was so big. There was not like the amount of effort that I see these days to bring new people in. So the role of the teacher was that person that teaches the dance. The days at the social come to the social. But all these aspects of marketing and all these things, there was a whole team to do it. It was more like a business because there were simply enough numbers for that. So in the end of the day, being a small community and witnessing small communities operating, there is this maybe instinctive desire to have whoever teaches in that community also be someone who helps build it and grow it. Maybe there's something that happens almost like a autopilot thinking. It can be, and the thing is, it can totally not be as well. Someone's contribution to the community building is the quality of their teaching. And that's all that they can give, And then someone's contribution to the community building is, like Alison was saying, getting the food ready or getting the music going or getting the decorations going. So I think it's that clarity as much as possible, bringing that clarity to each role and giving more of maybe a break for whoever is in the leadership role, in the sense that like, I know what you expect from people. I know what you ask from people. And I know who is ready for what. And the people who are dealing with the leadership, be more proactive in communicating changes of circumstance, so both sides can know how to navigate this. Yeah. And this for me has been liberating so much like Alison was saying, that we sometimes have people asking to join the core team. And again, everything was more based on assumptions and based on shoulds and stuff. So to try to bring clarity, we wrote down a document that lays out what being the core team actually means, what do you do when you're there, what to expect. So that has already brought so much peace of mind to our hearts, because now we have something written somewhere about it. And I think that's the other side of this aspect of personality, or the aspect of being a personal business, is at times highly informal. Things are not written anywhere. You don't have contracts. You don't have guidelines. They are written down. So this is another effort that I think we have been doing. And then I've been recommending to everybody that talk to me, write these things down, having somewhere, and have a date, because things change as quickly as you blink your eyes, the circumstances change. We did our core team document. We completed it maybe a month and a half ago. We are already going to the new version of it because things already changed, So it's like, it's keeping that going as humanly possible, because it's hard to keep track of everything at all times. However, the effort of clarity for a personal, informal kind of business, man, it can bring so much more calm.
And adding to that, I think it's important to understand expectations. Once again, this whole topic and this whole episode is about expectations. One last big problem that I want to mention that I've had, and multiple community leaders shared with me that they had, is the fact that people want that structure, want the clarity. And maybe, showing the other side of what Guy's saying here right now. People want the clarity. They want everything written and everything detailed, but they don't want to be treated like a company. So they want the organizational structure and clarity and rules and procedures and all of those things, because they're like, well, that's how you run a business. That's how you run a corporation. That's how we do it in my work. But then when we want to bring that up and go well, but then this is your expectations. This is what you said you're going to do. They're like, no, but wait. This is my hobby. This is my fun time. This is dance, I come to dance to have fun. I don't come to dance to have another job. And I'm like, breathe. You asked me for all of the things to be written and to be detailed. And now you're telling me that you don't want to follow that. So that's just another side of the coin, to be careful and to understand. Understand that yes, we can give all of the details and all of the expectations and all of those things, but be flexible, because you have to be flexible with us. We have to be flexible with you. And this is a live document, because things are constantly changing. Okay, so as long as we are all understanding that we have a guide, let's say, this is the guide, but don't hold every word as if this was a contract that can have a legal effect on a slight change of situation. Okay? Everything has to be flexible. This is just a guide. As long as we understand that, community leaders and members should have a good experience. So yes, have that document, but be very clear that, guys, this is something that may change and may be different for every single member of the community. And unfortunately, this is just how we all have to understand.
Yeah, it's not a rule book. It's a guideline. Yeah, it's not a manual. It's not a contract. Exactly. It's something that we can go for reference, and it can be really, really helpful, because I worked in contract as a lawyer back in the day. So my day was reading these things and finding the gaps and filling the gaps. And if you start putting absolutely everything that can happen, it becomes 125,000 pages contract. I actually have a very interesting story about that. I once went to a meeting with Japanese clients. Japanese clients were our clients, and a Brazil company was the other side. And I went to São Paulo to discuss the terms of the contract. And it was really interesting. Actually, that's why I have my beard.
Okay, let's go.
Yes, because I was 24 years old at the time. And
I see where this is going.
Exactly. And I was the one that was going to talk to the Japanese clients. I was the one going to be doing the talking with the other side. And the partner told me, "You look too young." And I said, "What can I do?" And I said, "What do you think of growing a beard?" And he said, "Yeah, but it cannot be the halfway thing. You have to go full on." And I said, "Okay." And here I am with my beard 10 years later. So it was interesting because when the Japanese clients sent their first version of the contract, it had like 5 pages. 5 pages. And it was a complex technology transfer contract. It was a steel company that was going to license the technology to create steel plates. Really interesting stuff. And it had like, 10 pages, super small. When we send the contract back to them revised, we send it with 36 pages. And they got really confused. Like, what's happening? We had these calls about what is happening. Because their contract was very simple, just tackling the main aspects of the negotiation with no safeguards. Like, very chill. And we were like, "Oh, but we need this clause here to protect you." But they were like, "But why would we do that? Why would they do that? Aren't we going to a contract together?" And like, "Look, let's understand something here. We're dealing with a Brazilian company." And then at each clause that we're doing as safeguards, they were like, "But why do we do?" They were like so confused. And then in the meeting, the other side would say, "Oh, so we will need to add this clause because you guys can." And they would see them like glitching really hard, trying to understand why in the hell would they do that? Because they are really relying on the honor system.
Yeah.
If we are getting in a contract with you, we are, we're going to follow the contract. Why would we screw you up? So that was one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had in my professional life, to witness them glitching really hard when we would talk about the safeguard clauses and when the other side would talk about the things that they could do against them. And now that I work with dance, I actually see a lot of similarities in this situation. Because if we are both joining this effort of teaching people how to move their bodies, learning how to dance, learn how to take care of each other, take care of each other's body, learn about a dance culture, dance the culture, dance the dance. We are going into this assuming, like the Japanese did, that we trust that we have the best interest of the school, of the student in mind. So when we start to add all these safeguards in a guideline document, we start to constrain it, and we start to make it too large, and we start to also open a lot of room for endless talks, for endless, like we go into this rabbit hole. Oh, but then. So like Alison was saying, like we were saying this whole time, like it's personal, it's informal. The formality we try to bring to it is to help us. It's to help us navigate it better when it comes to organizing the group of people who is organizing classes, organizing events, organizing socials and stuff like that. Basically that. So that was like something that reminded me of of what we are talking about here, because sometimes people want all the clarity and all the details possible, but then when you give it to them, they're like, "Wait, but this is my hobby." And so This happens far too many times. So in the document, in whatever thing we do, we have to say this is a live document subject to change. This is a guideline. Lot of disclaimers. I learned the importance of disclaimers living in this world of art. Né? We have to say what it is, and we have to truly say what is not. Maybe more of what it is, I think, at times. Yeah.
Exactly. And there you go. Now we learned why Guy has this beautiful beard.
Yes, my friends. That's why.
Because his baby face could not go with law.
I can show you guys one time my picture from that time. You're gonna see. I look like a 15-year-old on a suit. So I needed my beard to look more respectable.
Yes. Well, on that note, let's close it here on a more positive note, since this episode was a little bit more like, So we'll close on this note, and we thank you for being here with us once again, whether listening or watching us on Spotify if you want to watch us in the full video form. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much. Beijos, beijos. Abraços. Tchau.
Ciao, everyone.